is that if we are to understand why people-centered is so often scorned and rejected, sort of like an orphan of the process within the governance of human settlement delivery, we are going to have to understand where the money goes. Similarly, if we want to change this so people-centered becomes a first cousin, we're going to have to find ways of changing the path along which money flows. If we are to realize this aspiration of a set of procedures governing human settlement development that gives priority to informed, united and participating people, as opposed to procedures that give priority to developers, counsellors and beneficiaries, passive beneficiaries, we are going to have to get much better at following the money and then, more importantly, changing the flow of that money. And there is no other way. We are going to have to learn more about where and how urban development and human settlement budgets are presently flowing, and we have to find out how we are able to redirect them. And once again, we cannot do that unless we engage the state and seek to develop partnerships. I think at this point in time it's realistic that it would be too much to expect a dramatic change, although there are good signs on the offing. One of them is the economic recession, so the state just can't continue to roll out its current policy. There are other government priorities now, and there is a new ministry, so this might promise a few more opportunities than before. But nothing demonstrates the challenge ahead more clearly than these current money flows in the housing delivery system and the vested interests that benefit from them, and those vested interests who will have to be drawn into a more people-oriented approach. Now this finally brings me to the end of my presentation and to what I call SDI's South Africa's big agenda. And this is what I think are the real goals of our engagement with the state. It's the bigger picture behind the 11,000 plus houses and the 12 greenfield sites and so on and so forth. And I think an easy way for me to explain this agenda is to describe them in terms of design principles. The design principles that undergo our ongoing commitment to aggressive engagement with the state. And every project that we undertake, every meeting that we have, every interaction that we do is based on these objectives or design principles. Design principle number one, we are trying to develop a multiplicity of strategies to housing and neighborhood development. And the way we do that is by insisting on delivery in partnership with united, organized and informed communities. That will create the diversity and the multiplicity that is required. Second design principle is to reshape the institutional environment within which government support, especially subsidies and grants, are delivered. That's why the Federation is constantly meeting with government and seeking to try and to find ways to create that redesigning. And design principle number three is to change the flows of money, so that the money flows in ways that support people-centered development. To invest in the growth and capacitation of united and informed communities, and to give them a much significant stake in developing institutionalizing systems that will make their informed participation a precondition for the way in which the government does its business around housing. I think the challenge that we face around this is that if we crack these things and we're able to get these design principles to inform the way in which the state develops a more people-centered policy, there is no doubt about the fact that that policy will only go to scale if the design principles are actually adopted and institutionalized and managed by the state, including adopting an institutionalization of SDI methodologies and principles, among other methodologies. And the challenge that then approaches us is to what extent do those methodologies retain their vibrancy, their rigor and their robustness, and escape the risk of being dumbed down and co-opted by vested interests that have other agendas. But if we can get to the point where that is the challenge that faces us, we will have gone a significant distance further than we currently are.